Hello, welcome. How is everyone? Good? Who's enjoying Idea Lab? Yay! Okay, this is the first year we've tried those bracelets. How's it working out? They good? They help? Okay, cool. I am excited. My name's Jen Roney. I'm the managing director for Staples Promotional Products in Canada. And I have the honor today of hosting our panel on turning moments into momentum. And we have quite the esteemed panel here with us today. So forgive me, they're so impressive I had to bring cue cards to read their bios. So I'm going to start here with Marcello on the end. Marcello is the founder of Tennis, a next-generation web and product design agency helping B2B companies transform their websites into growth engines. He partners with marketing teams to drive revenue, efficiency, and ROI through strategic, high-performing web experiences backed by practical insights and a client-first approach. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Lindsay is Vice President of Partnerships at the T1 Agency with more than 15 years of experience across sports, entertainment, and talent partnerships, having previously worked for Molson Coors and MLSE. She helps organizations build partnership portfolios that drive business impact while creating meaningful community connections. And last but not least, we have Jordan. Jordan is Campaign's 2025 Producer of the Year and Vice President of Experiences at Diamond. With an MBA and over a decade of agency experience, he leads award-winning global programs and is the founder and CEO of a sustainability consultancy advancing innovative production models. So give it up for our panel. There are seats in the front row, friends. Feel free to come on in and steal them and join the show. So we are here today to talk about fandom and what brands can learn about how to build fandom. And we were just saying, there are a lot of big cultural and sports moments that are going to be happening in Toronto and across the country through 2026. And so we thought, what a great time to have a conversation around how brands can really leverage those moments to drive meaning and value and impact for their brands. So I'm going to kick it over with a kind of somewhat quick-fire question for the three of you. It's going to go to all three. But we hear a lot about fandom. Brands love the idea of being able to say that they have brand fans. I mean, that's kind of ultimately what brands would love to achieve. What do brands either misunderstand about fandom, or what have brands that have done it well? What do they do differently? What helps them create fans?
I think it's a great question. I think it's something that we talk about a lot is how do we go beyond just impressions? How do we make sure that people resonate with our brands and it sticks with them a lot longer, and they not only just become someone who recognizes a brand and likes or loves a brand, but someone who advocates for them. And I think the brands that don't do it well, or the standard, is you try and you start with what is the brand looking for? The brand starts with a campaign. We want to get this message out. We want to highlight this product. And then they try to find a piece of culture that they can attach themselves to. Whereas the ones who actually gain fans start with the individual. They start with the person or the market. And when you start there, you stop asking questions like, what is it about our brand that we want everyone to hear? And you start thinking about, how do we elevate the experience for the people who are experiencing whatever event or whatever they're doing? So to me, the best brands are the ones who don't try to create culture. They don't try to own it. But what they do is they try to elevate it. So the one thing I would say to everyone as you're building briefs, stop saying what's the one best thing that we can say here to audiences, but instead think about what is the audience's current journey and how do we make that 10 times better for them. And then once you start thinking about it that way, you'll start winning more and more fans.
Awesome.
Love
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah, building off that, I think the biggest misconception is that fandom can be manufactured, fandom can be bought. Fandom is about showing up at a marquee moment in time and, really inserting yourself and then disappearing. And we all know, I think rationally we know that's not true, but often when we're building these briefs or when we have resources to use in finite periods of time that we think we should show up in, that's how it comes across. And I think we as consumers, we know, we can smell that from a mile away. And so when you think about fandom, by definition, it's somebody that cares, somebody that advocates. And so the best opportunity for brands in this room and beyond is to care about what the fan cares about, to support what they support. And that's where you really take that from passive, from being an audience member to being a fan, to being an advocate. And I think a lot about the Olympics. So we have a handful of great clients that are involved in the Olympics. And, the Olympics are at the time where you see these big, shiny brands doing these multi-million-dollar campaigns during a 2 to 4 week period. And then a lot of them are gone. But what are you doing to invest in the game, to grow the sport, to build at a grassroots level? Those are the things that we would challenge back to our clients to say permission to play, permission to be here. Because if it's fleeting, that's really obvious to the end user.
Very cool. From my context, a lot of the work that we do is with B2B brands, so less on the consumer side. So fandom in that space, to me, is more about community and audience engagement. And I mean, to kind of piggyback on everything that was said, a lot of the brands that I work with that do a really good job of this, they really just understand their clients very intimately. So they've mapped out everything about their ideal client profile. What are the jobs they do on a day-to-day basis? What are their aspirations? What are their pain points? And they so accurately know what their clients are interested in and what their problems they're trying to solve. And then they try to meet them where they are. So it's no myth anymore that most consumers are doing their research online. Most consumers are experiencing your brand as a first touch point online. And so what they do really well is understand how we can better help and be a resource to our clients or audiences and start to meet them online in the spaces that they're at with digital tools, digital products, things like that, that can really just help to solve problems, answer questions, and over time that starts to build and you start to build more of a fandom.
So let's piggyback on that theme, because what I heard a lot of is meet the customer, the consumer where they are. I'm going to kick this one to you first, Marcello, because it's hard when you've been last. You get to go first this time.
Awesome.
How does a brand decide if there is a moment that matters to a customer or consumer, whether it's worth activating or not, whether it's something worth leaning into? And we'll go to you and then kick it to Lindsay.
Sure. I think there's two pieces. So one is if you're reacting constantly, how do you do that? It's possible to do it, but how do you do it with enough speed to actually meet that moment? So that's one challenge. And I would say that a lot of brands that are able to do that have kind of mapped out the year. They know where their sort of marquee activations are, where the smaller activations are. They have some sense of what they've done in the past that works, that is a bit more turnkey versus custom, so they can pop things up very quickly. And then the second piece to that is responding to cultural or social moments. And I think that having a really clear understanding of your organization's values and where you naturally fit in these conversations and moments is really important, because you can action faster, and obviously not being performative. Like audiences can smell that a mile away, right? So again, clear understanding of who you are as an organization, who your clients are, the people that you're trying to help, and where you're trying to meet them. And I think that's kind of the key in my mind in terms of like how do you activate on these moments.
Yeah, I think that's great. To build off of what you said, we don't have infinite resources, so while tempting to jump into every big moment and every cultural event and hop on every trend, it really for me it comes down to three major things. One, the credibility piece. Do you have permission to be here? Do you have that values alignment internally? Is that what you preach internally? So will your employees buy into this? Because if they won't, then it's not going to shine through externally. Second piece is a lot of what Gio touched on earlier. Are you adding value to the experience? By being there, is this additive? Are you just inserting yourself and you're obstructing, or are you creating something that the fan's craving, alleviating a pain point? Putting the consumer, the fan, at the center of this is absolutely critical, but I don't think it's critical in isolation. I think in the last, 10 years, it's been like fan is at the center, fan is at the center. absolutely fan is at the center. You have to add value to the fan, but also how are you adding value to your brand? Because we all know that, if your CFO is signing off on a multi-million-dollar sponsorship, it's not just to add value to the fan. So what are you doing to attribute to your brand objectives or to ladder up to your organizational goals, whether that's awareness, whether that's perception, whether that's advocacy? So for me, it really comes down to those three things. One, permission to play. Two, you're adding value to the fan. And three, you're adding value to the business.
So that's a great tee up for a case study I know that you were going to speak to, Gio, which is talking about a smart activation that leaned into this notion of a kind of a cultural activation, or fandom. So maybe you can talk us through, and do you want to talk first and then we play the video, or do you want to play the video first?
I'll just say something really quickly.
Yeah, please.
Thank you for teeing that up so well for this. It's perfect, because this is exactly that. This is how do you activate against a larger sponsorship in something that's a meaningful way to build fandom, putting the person first, but understanding what can you get out of those sponsorships. And the case study that you're about to see is one of my favorite programs of all time, and it's probably been seen so far by the same amount of people that's in this room. But that's the beauty of it, is that it focused so much on the participants, the people who mattered here, and how to create fans. So I'll
roll tape.
We can play it, yeah.
More than 1 in 5 girls drop out of sports in their teens, but they deserve a future in hockey. With the right support, girls can thrive in this game and experience all the rewards that come with it. That's why Soroya and I teamed up with TD and the Vancouver Canucks for this year's TD Power Play Hockey Clinic. We invited girls to lace up and join us inside the home of the Vancouver Canucks, where they push their abilities and hone their skills, showing just how much they love the game. Off the ice, the girls came together for a powerful conversation about what hockey gives back: confidence, resilience, and a team to lean on. Through shared stories, they walked away with a strengthened belief in themselves and their place in the game. We saw new friendships take shape and teammates lifting each other up, and that's what it's all about. Because when coaches, leagues, and sponsors work together, we can help empower more girls to keep playing hockey.
Yeah, so as you can see, that to me is one of the perfect forms of creating fandom. It's not a massive budget. It's nothing that has crazy builds. It's actually one of the most sustainable programs that I've been able to be a part of as well, because everything's already existing. But what it's doing is it's finding attention, understanding the participants there, understanding what girls are going through at that time in their lives, and then being able to say, we have permission to play here. We are a sponsor here. We can elevate your hockey experience or your journey with sports. And that's why we want to be here. It wasn't about how do we get the most impressions. It wasn't about how do we find those big numbers on a report. It's about how do we take the lives of 40 young women and make their experience better with hockey and sport. And that's what we stood for. And that was something that I thought was absolutely incredible. It was very brave to be able to put something like that forward. And ultimately, I think we created 40 new fans that were on the ice, 80 new fans of all their parents, and then they got to tell those stories. I have a feeling that moment of them stepping onto the ice in the Vancouver arena, looking up at all those stands, something that no one gets to do, is something that they're going to be talking about for decades to come.
I love that's meaningful and truly impactful. Speaking of business impact, we're going to take a bit of a hard right turn, but right into the world of AI. And I'll tell you, as we were preparing for this conversation, there was so much excitement as we started to talk everything AI and how it can help to really power these moments that we're talking about. So this is for all of you. Where do you see AI genuinely helping teams work smarter today, especially when it comes to spotting cultural signals, shaping briefs, stress testing ideas, and maybe feel free to share a bit about how you're using it to help power campaigns?
AI it's a big part of our day-to-day now. It really has to be in order to keep up. And I think there's There's a lot of places it's incredible to drive efficiency. It's an incredible delegation tool. I think the people that are using it best, in at least in my orbit, aren't necessarily always the most technical marketers, but they're really strong at delegating and ensuring that the delegations and these prompts are clear. But also, they're critical thinkers. So it's one thing to use it as, I think we always say, like a sparring tool or a thinking partner, because it's incredible at driving those efficiencies. But you also have to think critically at the end of the day. Where we use it on a broad, in the day-to-day and almost as an always-on is we do a lot of measurement and valuation for performance marketing, specifically in the sports sponsorship space, or entertainment space, I should say. And so whether that's logo tracking, whether that's behavior tracking, whether that's social listening, whether that's understanding lift and perception and brand health, it's kind of always-on monitoring tool that's really allowing us to see if things are working in real time. And how can we pivot and how can we shift and how can we optimize your portfolio if we're falling flat in an area that we hope to really drive relevance or drive awareness or drive business. So that's something that we are 100% reliant on. Now, that said, the team is still synthesizing the data, drawing recommendations from the data, drawing insights from the data, and really creating those optimized opportunities from the data. But the data is absolutely everything, especially where these really big budgets are involved.
Piggybacking off of exactly what Lindsay said is AI is very, very good at some things and it's very bad at others. And I'm sure all of us have played around with it and figured that out. We've all used some of the different tools, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, what have you. And what it's really good at is doing that work that takes time, but not the work that makes you win. It's not what differentiates you. So the smartest people who are using it in the best ways are the ones who are taking all that time, the not smart work, and reducing that as much as you possibly can so that you have more time to do the things that allow you to win. Let's take an RFP, for example. Traditionally, let's say you had a week to deliver an RFP, deliver a proposal. It would take you probably about 80% of the time understanding the problem, setting things up, building decks, all of these types of things, and only 20% on the work that would make you win. Where you're now able to sort of flip that and change that is that 80% that you would have spent that wasn't on the winning formula can almost be instantaneous, which means that it's not replacing people, it's allowing people to do the best work that they possibly can do because it's not the things that are more repetitive that take up time. At Diamond, we're encouraged to play with AI and to try it. We have some restrictions and everyone's trying to navigate it all at the same time. But one of the ways that we are using it is something called vibe coding. Vibe coding is familiar to a lot of people, but not familiar to a lot of people also. You can start building web apps now that helped you generate reports or that help you build different games even to show what you want to do, and you just ask ChatGPT to code it for you. I know zero about code, absolutely nothing, and I was able to code a website that my team has slowly started to use and some other games as well to show, hey, here's an example of a game for a music program that we could do at festivals. It's not built out yet, but here's an example of how it could work. And those are just better ways for us to get to better work faster.
Great. Amazing use cases. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot has sort of been said. I really liked the comment you made about focusing on things that take you a lot of time and then having that 20% as the piece that makes you win. Our background at tennis, we're development and UX design, so we are building all the time and we're adapting a lot to all the use cases for AI. I would say that for most organizations, like AI kind of needs to live in some parameters. The one part of it is policies and procedures. Like, what policies and procedures does your organization have about how are you using AI within the business? The other one is risk. It is still pretty risky to have an organization of a substantial size just letting people use AI however they want to. You end up with something called shadow IT, which is like a whole mishmash of applications out there and within your organization that IT can't control. So there's risk there. And also the output. I mean, everyone mentioned that, you still need a person involved to a pretty deep level before anything gets approved or moved forward within an organization, because it's constantly hallucinating and doing all sorts of crazy things. Like, we experiment a lot as well, and I'm always surprised that even with setting up a very detailed GPT and setting up the structures that you need so that you can execute something, occasionally you'll get something that's completely out of nowhere, and you're like, how is it possible that 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 results are just completely out of left field? So there's still a high level and a high degree of risk. And then the other piece is scalability and security. So, the use case that you mentioned about vibe coding is a really good use case for internal MVPs and iterating and ideating and all this stuff. But where we're at right now with vibe coding and apps like Lovable is that they're not scalable, and they're a security risk. So it's great for proving use cases and even for testing with clients or internally with employees. High risk for anything that's sort of like external facing, depending on the scale you're trying to get to. I see AI as being a really good use case for data processing, research, some level of ideation. We actually started building a product for marketers to keep tabs on, like, who are their ICPs, because everyone has so much data around client conversations, case studies, transcripts. So it's a really good tool for consolidating that information and giving you some actionable insights. Like, that's a great way of using AI, and thinking about those like very manual workflows that you can sort of bridge the gap from 0 to like a 50% starting point, and then get involved as the actual person or decision maker.
If we were to tie this conversation around AI into the notion of fandom, I'm throwing this out there, how do you think AI could help brands identify kind of which moments to lean into, or how to use insights potentially to shape an activation? Like, is that something you guys could maybe speak to a bit, like using AI for insights?
I think it does a lot on the upfront of helping you identify the patterns. That's what takes the longest, is to identify patterns within a data set. And it can it can start to pull some insights for you, but it's never what cracks the code. So I think what it does is it helps you get a lot farther down the road a lot faster, and then you need to validate that with the audiences, and you can get to talk to more people earlier, faster, get more information, adapt as you go, but it moves the starting line from 40 yards back to 40 yards forwards, and I think that's the best way that you can possibly use it, is to get to some of those insights as fast as you can, and then to stress test them and use that time to stress test them.
I've heard of some brands using it for A/B testing and for consumer reach testing as well. But anything, Lindsay or Marcello, you would add to the insights, or using it to shape moments, cultural?
Yeah, we use it for A/B testing. We've got, automated surveys, focus groups set up, which is super, super helpful, and a really cool offering for brands. You don't have to necessarily do a custom study because it's at your fingertips. So yeah, I'd say that's something that's incredible for, you think about what these custom surveys, they're $30,000 to $50,000 for one round, right? And often you want to do it before and an after, whether that's a big campaign or a season or a marquee moment. And the ability to do it in real time is truly transformative, because that gives that brand the power to pivot always, again, in real time. I think the one thing that we always have to remember is fandom is emotional. And so while it's easy to track, brand health, it's not human. It's artificial intelligence. It's not human intelligence. And so the ability to come in there and look at things critically and look at things with a human lens and human heart is still what at the end of the day is going to do it, because fandom is completely emotional. They can tell you, the people behind the screen can tell you, cultural trends, but it can't experience culture. Those are lived experiences that, at least today, at least the tools we're using, AI can't do that yet.
I love what you're saying too there, just before I kick it over to you, Marcello, just around the notion of, you mentioned testing being 30 to 50,000, you said, for kind of around there, before and after. If you're using AI for that, who's a marketer in the room? Like, that's $100,000 of cash that you freed up to either, yes, sure, maybe take back to the bottom line, or to reinvest in building those cultural moments that you're talking about, right? Reinvesting in the customer or consumer in a more meaningful way, which I think is really exciting. Marcello, anything you want to add?
Yeah, there's a use case that we use internally that we're starting to work with marketers to kind of test and see how valuable it would be for them. But it's basically having a consistent pulse on your ideal client profile. So it starts with us in our agreements. When we sign an agreement to do work, we have an AI disclosure. It tells our clients exactly how we use AI, from what applications we're using, how we use it for insights, how we use it for production, so that they can opt in or opt out. And then from there, basically what we try to do is consolidate use cases, client conversations into a messaging matrix that's really just a really tight profile of what do our clients care about? What are their pain points? Try to use real life quotes. And then from there, we can basically start to see some common insights, and we try to keep it down to 4. The messaging matrix is basically like a 4x4 grid. So as many transcripts and conversations as possible into some really concrete trends. And then from there, we can kind of action those trends. So we can action them in activations if we were doing for ourselves. We can action them with sales teams, marketing teams. And then the really cool part is version 2.0 from there is that you can start to automate all of that so that you have AI agents that basically do the work for you. So when you finish a transcript, you can just load it into a specific folder by industry, and then that work is just constantly done. So it's constantly updating your messaging matrix and just giving you like a really tight and updated look at what do our clients care about? Like what are their pain points? What are we solving? Which in the sort of web design, web development, web application space is sometimes difficult to get down to like what is the actual ROI on this work that we're doing.
Amazing. Thank you. So just to wrap us up, we're going to go along the row for everyone to be able to take something away. It's rapid advice time. If you were to leave the folks in this room with kind of one piece of advice when it comes to a mindset shift around culture, fandom, AI, what would that be?
People always say you have to have a person in the loop when it comes to AI, and I understood that kind of, but I also had that notion of, I think people are saying that because they're worried about their jobs. You don't have to be worried. And the reason, and I'm going to tell you why. Everyone in this room are I'm assuming, problem solvers, right? We're built to think outside the box. That's not what AI is. AI is literally built on everything that already exists. It's built and it's fed with all the data that is there today. It's incredible at defining what the box is, but it can't think outside of it because it's not fed that way. It's not built that way. It's never designed to do that. So if you can define the box, and if your job says think outside the box, disrupt yourself, find the gaps, you are safe and we are all fine. And that's how you can be confident that if you're using AI for all the in the box stuff, you get to shine in all the out of the box stuff.
Oh my, can't follow that one. I think I'm going to steal what you said earlier because I loved it. I think it's about, when we think about culture, especially in this city, we have so many opportunities to jump into something. And I love the notion of don't try to own it. You know, it's like, how do we own this moment? Well, you know, you and 900 other brands are trying to do that, but be part of it and be part of it with the permission that we talked about earlier. Don't just jump in blind. Make sure you have those strategic guardrails in place. You know your values, you know what you stand for. And that way, when you're acting in real time, well, it may feel reactive to the rest of the world, which is a great thing. Like, look at what they did in real time. It's actually really, really strategic, and it's just more about agility.
Those are both very good. Yeah, I mean, for me, like I keep going back to this thought that I had recently, which was helping, not selling. And in the B2B space, I feel like community building, fandom, all of that building is really just about helping, not selling. Like, people don't want to be sold to. They've got problems they're trying to solve, or they have aspirations they're trying to achieve. And so how do brands and organizations provide resources and tools to help versus trying to sell, basically?
Amazing. Thank you all. We have time. Does anyone in the room have a question? I've been fortunate enough to sit up here and ask here. I'm going to run over to you with this mic so the room can hear you.
I just had a question for Jordan. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but that campaign with the girls hockey, you said very few people had seen it. Why is that? And is it just because it's new, or is it because that was an intentional? To me, that's great content to put out.
Oh, well, like we put it out, right? There's an OLV, and you can see it. It wasn't, what I meant by that was it wasn't made for mass media, right? There wasn't a major media buy behind it. We weren't doing it for the credit of doing it and to show everyone that we did it. We did it because we wanted, it was all about the players. So there is an OLV, there is content, there is things that we shared, there is some social pieces, but the ones who were really affected by it and who really saw it were the people in that stadium.
Thank you for the question. Woo. Anyone else? Well, listen, give it up for our panelists. Thank you all so much for sharing your experience and your insights. We appreciate it. And thank you all for being here and participating in the day. I hope you're enjoying it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.